Hey, next on the T Nation, thanks for coming back and tuning into part 2 of this week's show featuring my conversation with Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor Jeff Smith. Jeff has been a wonderful contributor to this show over the last, I'd say, year and a half. I can't be more excited that I've gotten to have him as part of the show. B, I got to meet him and spend a little bit of time with him last year at the PGA Merchandise Show. And every time he's been a part of a segment of this show, he has really knocked it out of the park. And it's easy to see why. He is absolutely one of the most sought-after instructors in our game. You'll hear a little bit more about that when I do his longer introduction right before he joins me on the show and then throughout the course of our conversation. But there isn't a better, a nicer, and a more knowledgeable guy in our game than Jeff Smith. During our time this week, you'll hear about his new place down in Indian Wells, California. We'll also talk about some unconventional shots, some tips for some things that you probably wouldn't have thought of. I know I didn't. For how we can get around a tree, underneath a branch, maybe get it up there close to the green and save ourselves some strokes. Really great lesson that Jeff shares with us, and we talk about growing the game and some of the other things that he and his PGA professionals are out there doing. So I can't thank him enough. So sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for about the next 45 minutes or so. But before we get started, I want to remind you about our great friends over at 2 Under. 2 Under men's performance briefs are the unofficial underwear of the PGA, Ryder Cup, and President's Cup teams, and are sold in over 3,000 golf pro shops and golf specialty retailers nationwide. Ricky Fowler is their global ambassador, and over 50 other PGA, Korn Ferry, and Champions Tour players wear them. Just to mention a few, they are David Toms, Jerry Kelly, Justin Thomas, William McGirt, Scott McCarron, and Chris DeMarco. The Joey Pouch technology provides the ultimate male asset management, delivering maximum comfort from the tee box to the boardroom to the bedroom. Go to 2under.com to check out the bundle specials that offer substantial discounts for being a Next on the Tee listener. That's the number 2, UNDR.com. 2 Under, performance in your pants. Coming up next, Christopher Carter is going to make a return visit to the show. He's got a wonderful new book out that's going to help us have more fun when we're out there playing on the course. Before I bring him into the show, let's talk about our friends over at Squares Golf. And folks, do you sway and you're off balance in your golf swing? You know what? It could be your shoes. A golf shoe needs structure to provide stability and reduce sway. How can you tell if your shoes lack structure and are hurting your game? If you can hold your shoes by the toe and heel and twist it, toss it. Squares was designed for the perfect balance of structure and comfort. Isn't it time you tried Squares? Try the new Speedbolt at squares.com. That's SQAIRZ.com.
Every January, PGA Tour Superstore pros meet every manufacturer, learn about the latest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. All so they can get you the perfect fit.
Okay, now back in Next on the Tee with me is Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor Jeff Smith. Jeff has also been named the top instructor in the state of Indiana. He is also a top 100 growth of the game teaching professional. He was named the 2018 Indiana PGA Player Development Award winner and the 2020 Indiana PGA Teacher of the Year. Jeff earned his degree in psychology and economics at Indiana University. He can be found at a lot of different places. He's been at the Bonita Bay Club down in Bonita Springs, Florida. He's also the director of instruction out in Flagstaff, Arizona at Pine Canyon and their sister course, Talking Rock. He has also recently been cited out at the Vintage Club in Indian Wells, California, which I can't wait to hear about. So all of this says to me he is the most sought-after instructor in the game of golf. And if all of that wasn't enough, you probably also know him as the co-host of one of the best golf podcasts out there, Those Weekend Golf Guys, alongside of John Ashton. You can check them out online at thoseweekendgolfguys.com or on your favorite podcast app. And I couldn't be more honored. I get to have Jeff back with me this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Jeff, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. This is so much fun. Chris, thanks for having me back. And I'm glad to hear that I got to listen in a little bit earlier to the fact that your recovery is chugging right along. I'm really glad to hear that.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend. I'm doing the best I can. I tell you what, I'm not very patient around these things. Everyone set my expectation that it was going to take about a year for everything to kind of heal up and all that sort of thing. And I'm only a couple of months in and I'm already tired of this thing. So I'm ready to get back out and be normal again. Though every
Yeah.
time I try to be normal again, my ankle reminds me why I can't be. But I got to get there, my friend. And like I say, the goal is 1% better every day. So I'm trying. I'll get there.
That's great. Well, we were looking forward to seeing you at the PGA show this year, but we kind of knew that that wasn't going to be the case. We had a spot for you um, as a podcaster at our annual open forum education event on the night of demo day, and
Yeah.
we hold that thing every year, and it's really a great educational event. Teachers from all over the place are out there talking and presenting things and talking about one topic or another. And there's always a hot one here or there, and it's really good. Next year we're gonna make sure you're there.
Well, I appreciate you, and I'm gonna work like heck to be there. I'm sure I will be. Did you give them a live episode of Two Hoosiers and a Hong while you were there?
Well, we tried, but the Hong and one of the Hoosiers managed to get up there, but we had the other Hoosier out there taking pictures. So our boy Scott Monroe, he decided that he was going to be Joe Photo because we needed him to get out there and take pictures of everybody that was up on stage and pictures of the crowd. And he knows so many darn people, it was just an obvious thing to do. So we had him rolling. But
So
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just gonna say. So when I've had and I've been blessed to have both James and Scott on the show, and when I've asked them, where's Jeff? They're not even sure because you've become like the Taylor Swift of golf instruction. You're on a world tour. You're packing auditoriums all over the country. So I wanted to kind of catch up with you, get me up to speed. Where are all the places that we're going to find Jeff Smith in 2025?
Well, here's where I landed, right? So I was offered the director of instruction position at the Vintage Club in Indian Wells, California. They offered that to me back in late October, and I was lucky enough to get that offer and smart enough to say yes. And the people here are fantastic, and I love every bit of it. And so I'm no longer at Bonita Bay. Love that place. The people there were terrific, and the facilities are wonderful, and can't say enough great things about it. But I just couldn't be in South Florida and Southern California at the same time. And situation dictated the fact that I was here at the Vintage Club. But boy, I sure like my time at Bonita Bay, and love to say thanks to all of them for the couple years I got to spend there in the winter times. And but now it's out here, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I mean,
cool.
I saw your pictures. I mean, the place just looks absolutely fantastic. And on top of that, I saw you did a golf school not that long ago. Jason Day dropped by for day one of the golf
Yeah.
school. Man, what is it like getting to do one of those with Jason Day?
Well, it was pretty interesting because here's a guy who's got a whole bunch of really terrific things to share. And honestly, we probably could have, just prodded him along and asked him to do another hour, and he would have had no problem because he's just a great guy. But truth be told, here's a golf school about a whole bunch of amateurs and their games. And so, you have somebody like that talking about how they became, and the work ethic and how they became the player they are. And and the amateurs, they got to hear an awful lot about that, and it was really good because it's inspiring. When they sit there and listen to a player who's worked hard and gotten to the top level of their game to match their desire, and then to listen to them say how difficult it is to actually stay there is, that's an important thing. So it wasn't all golf swing guru talk and all that other stuff. No, this was about how to make it better, how to make every bit of what you're doing better, how to focus a little bit, how to structure your practice. And it was a great thing for Jason to do for us at the Vintage Club. And then we got to take that golf school, and all of a sudden I made the rest of it about everybody else's game. So we did things. We took them on the golf course, and we talked to them about how to handle these weird lies, balls above, balls below, strange lies, on angles, buried bunker shots, how we hitting hybrids off of downhill lies, all kinds of stuff we were doing.
Wow.
And we were working with golf swings, and we were certainly working with short game, and we worked a lot with putting, and we broke it up. And for 2 days, we took a whole bunch of golfers and did practical application things for their game instead of thinking it was going to be everybody has to swing golf swing X, because we all know that's crazy. Nobody can do that. So nobody's out there swinging golf swing designed by a book. It is how can this player get this done better, faster, and we did a pretty good job with that.
No doubt you did. And all right, so now you piqued my interest. So help me hit a hybrid or a fairway wood off a downhill lie. What am I doing?
All right, so let's say we're going down the slope, and we need to get a ball struck solidly first. So we need to adapt to the slope and stabilize our bodies before anything else. So the first thing, you just settle in, and then let's say it's a downhill slope and you're a right-handed golfer. So your downhill leg is the one that you're going to stabilize before you do anything else. So that's your left leg. And once you stabilize that thing, and I mean this thing has to be rock solid, like the Rock of Gibraltar. Because if you're soft in that leg, you're traveling down the slope and your contact's going to be poor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stabilize that downhill leg, and then we're going to tilt to match our shoulder line to the slope.
What does that
And
mean?
then,
Help me out with that.
so let's say it's a downhill slope. That means the left side is down and the right side is up the hill, right? So it's higher on the right than it is on the left. Yep. So there's no way that we can stand there with our shoulders level to the horizon and expect us to land on the bottom of the golf ball. We're going to bounce into that thing, right?
Yep.
So we have to tilt, in this case, forward, where our head feels like it's moving to the left side of the body and our spine is tilting to the left leg. Good thing we stabilized that thing, isn't it? Right?
Indeed.
See? So then we get a little, we get kind of close to the ball, and we go, okay, I'm going to wind up dropping my arms straight down here, and I'm going to get the length of club that I need. Then I better find out where this thing's going to land. And I promise you, because I've tilted forward, that landing spot of that club is going to be a bit more forward than where I normally play that thing. So I found out where that thing's going to first touch the ground, and I'm going to put the bottom of the golf ball right there. And then I've somewhat given myself the best possible chance for great clean contact. But it's pretty hard to take a hybrid, which doesn't have a lot of loft on it to begin with, and get a ball in the air, right?
Right.
So it's going to be a line drive, because a lot of those hybrids, they're in that 19 to 24 degree, some of them 28 degree loft, and we're traveling down a hill and it's facing a little lower. So we can't expect a lot of height, but we sure still have to hit the bottom of this golf ball, and we can sure hit it really solid, and it'll come out like a laser beam, but it'll get up in the air some, but not a whole lot.
So that's the key, right? Because now all of a sudden, if it was a 4 hybrid or whatever, from a distance perspective, that we think, all right, well, I can hit my 4 hybrid, whatever it is, 185 yards, whatever. And I'm 185 yards out. This is what I need. But to your point, now all of a sudden, because the club is delofted a little bit, it's going to come out hot and low and screaming on a line drive. We need to adjust, right? We got to make sure that we're not going to one bounce the green and end up over it in the woods or in the water or some bad place.
Right. So I'm not firing this thing right over a pond, I can tell you that. Right? That's not in my best interest.
Indeed.
So, there's all kinds of fun things that we get to talk about when we get to the golf course, and you take people there and you say, how am I going to deal with this? I had another one, and we took people out to a place where it was about 210 yards to the hole, got water on the left side of the hole, a bunker on the right side of the hole. The ball's above your feet by about a foot. So you're on this upslope, and the ball's higher than you are. And oh, by the way, about 30 yards in front of you, you got a big tree branch.
Oh, gee.
So what's the choice? So we looked at it, and I'm telling all the players, like, how are you going to play this shot? What's your concept of this right away? And invariably, people would take a really bad decision and try to make it work. Because that right there, folks, is a 2-shot scenario. Like, that thing's taking you 2 to get to the hole. And, there's players out there thinking they can still pull that off in 1 shot. And I'm thinking there's probably 4 people in the world that can make that shot happen. So, you talk about your options and you say, okay, what's my first obstacle? And that is the lousy lie, right? Ball's above your feet and it's up a slope. So you got to make good contact. But since it's up a slope and it's above your feet, that thing's probably going to launch a little high. So the first thing I think of is, how do I take that down? And so there's a whole bunch of clubs in the bag that don't have a lot of loft on it. And I'm thinking one of those right away. But I see a whole lot of people going, no, I'll just hit this with a 7-iron. I'll put it back in my stance. I'm like, no. That ball's getting up in the air a little too quick for that, folks. So I showed people how to bunt a driver off of that lie.
Oh, my.
So they could hit it, and it went below the tree branch by a lot. And then it went low and hot down the fairway about 180 yards. And then they had a wedge to the green, and they could do it. But you got to think a little bit about, what's the lie? What's it going to do to my ball? How am I going to get a club on this? And if I do, if that thing's above my feet and traveling uphill, I've just added loft to this club. I'm not really interested in taking any risk of that tree branch. So I showed them how to bunt a driver. They can make better contact with it. So here it is. You put the driver on the ground right behind the ball, and you get close, and you make the shaft short so you can control it. Otherwise, it's too stinking long, and you're standing too far away, and the swing's going way around you. Now you're going to bounce into the ball. So you got to make the shaft a little shorter. So next thing you know, you can bunt a driver, and it doesn't get very high off the ground, but it didn't need to.
So how long is my swing here?
You know what? When you're bunting it, I'm thinking it's probably like a half swing.
Okay. So
It doesn't
kind of
need
a
to be
9
much.
o'clock, 3 o'clock kind of deal?
Yeah, but you put a little bit of oomph into that. But here's the thing: is because you don't have a lot of loft, and all you needed was enough airtime to get over the mound and under the tree branch. And the rest of it can just go low and hot and running, because the thing was only a 210-yard shot to begin with. So we didn't need a whole lot. But we needed to avoid that trouble.
Yeah.
And then have the next one be easy. So I talk to people about, if you've got a 2-shot scenario on the golf course staring you in the face, meaning it's going to take you 2 shots to get to the hole, an awful lot of men, they're going to choose long then short. And some
That's what
people
we
are going
do.
to choose, some people are going to choose medium then medium. Not many people are going to choose short then long, right?
Right.
But I'm teaching people, it's like, look, why don't you think about this for a minute? How about we choose easy then easy? Right? I
Our
want
minds
this shot
never
as
go
easy as
there.
I can make it, leaving me with the easiest shot I can hit.
Yeah.
Because if it's going to take 2, I don't want stress. And so, I'm trying to make golf as easy and as fun as possible. But a lot of people hate the notion of, laying up. Like, okay, well, take your pick. Where do you want your ball to be? Why don't we just call this strategy? If you can't knock it in the hole from here, where do you want the next one to be played from? How easy can you make that? And then all of a sudden they stop thinking about it like it's a defensive strategy. They start thinking about it like it's an offensive strategy. And next thing you know, they're playing better golf.
Yeah. I love it.
Because they got out of the mindset of, I don't want to lay up.
Yeah.
Because that's a wimpy way to play golf.
Yeah.
Like, well,
Our egos don't like that one.
Whatever. Yeah, right. I just don't like big numbers on the scorecard. I don't know about you.
I love it.
Yeah. So we
Jeff,
had a lot of fun, had a lot of fun in that golf school.
good for you. I'm sure the students did too, by the way.
They
So
did.
you make it fun. So that's one of the many great talents that you have. And speaking of all of those great talents, I saw that maybe you added one here recently, because I saw that you caddied last week at the Pro-Am prior to the Waste Management Open. Talk
did.
about getting that opportunity.
Well, why don't we talk about how sore I still am?
That was my next question, because those bags aren't easy to carry around for 18 holes.
my guy didn't do me any favors. They had the gigantic leather staff bag full of whatever. I think there was an anvil in there too. I'm not sure, but I could tell you, I think that thing weighed about as much as I do. And you know, so I'm shouldering this bag, lugging it around the golf course, having a great time, by the way. It was exciting. I've never, in my whole life, I would have never pictured myself as being able to do what I do for a living, right? I never thought that I would work with great players, be on a PGA Tour range, helping people. Never thought I'd do anything like that. And now I've added something that I never thought I would do either, which is caddy in a PGA Tour Pro-Am. And all I found was fun.
No doubt. That, to me, that's exactly what you would find in any situation. That's one of the great things about you.
So here I am, and I get there early, and we get inside, and so we get out to the driving range, and I see a few other coaches that I know, and they're coming up and talking to me, and it was interesting, and we had a good time with that. And then here I am watching, helping my player get loose and get ready, and doing all the caddy stuff, cleaning clubs and making sure he's got balls in his bag. And he had plenty, believe me, he had a lot. he, he used 2 during the round of golf, and I had to carry, I think I was carrying 22 too many. Anyway, but so, here we are. We got Kyle Schwarber hitting on one side. Then we got Aaron Rodgers. Then I got Rob Riggle hitting on nearby. And then we got Michael Phelps, who is a member up at Pine Canyon, where I teach in the summertime in Arizona. And so it was pretty interesting to see people that I knew who they were from different walks of life, just right up close and personal. And I'll tell you what, I thought that Kyle Schwarber was a little bit taller than I was, but I was wrong. But boy, is he strong.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players, by the way. And as a Red Sox fan, it hurt me that we only got him for like 3/4 of a season one year. But I love that guy.
And I got to give him a little bit of ribbon because I didn't see any Indiana Hoosiers head covers or anything because, I'm a Hoosier myself, and, he played for us, and he went there too. And I'm like, dude, you're not even going to represent the Hoosiers at all? So I realize basketball season's not going very well right now, but, come on, throw us a little up. And so we had a good time chuckling about that. But, it was pretty interesting. So we get paired with Jordan Spieth on the front 9 and Joel Damon on the backside.
Wow.
And, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm hoofing, raking bunkers, checking yardages, giving clubs, reading green. And my guy hits on the 3rd hole. He makes an eagle, net double eagle. That was pretty exciting.
No doubt.
And then so he winds up being, makes 4 big putts on the front 9. And here I am doing the aim point read, doing it real fast. And, Jordan Spieth's caddy says to me afterwards, he goes, I've not seen anybody do it that fast. And he says, how do you do that? I'm like, well, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, man? Practice, man. Bragg chuckled about that, right? And and I kept reading, and next thing you know, here we are on the backside, and we're playing with Joel Damon. By the way, that guy, he doesn't look like he's going to hit it as far as he hits it, but man, we had to walk a long way for that guy's golf ball.
Is that right?
He flat out kills it. I was very surprised. He's just a little taller than I am, and he's really fit, but he doesn't look as muscular as what you might think for someone who hits the ball as far as he does. But he's solid. That guy's solid. Anyway, so we get into the backside, and my guy gets up there and just careers one off number 10 with a whole bunch of crowd around him. And I thought, all right, so this guy, because on the front 9, you don't have as much crowd, but as soon as you get to 10, now there's people hanging around. Now there's a whole bunch of players. And throughout the backside, there's more players to watch, and on the other side of the ropes and all that stuff. It's I'm not saying it was sparse in the morning, but we did tee off at 9:20 on the front. So by the time we rolled around to the back, it's noon, and there's more people there. and they get to be a bit more boisterous, and it was pretty interesting. And so the guy that I'm caddying for, he's handling all that really well. He's no rookie to this scene, and because he's the sponsor of the Pro-Am Day, so he's done this for a bunch of years, and so he's unflappable. And here we are, and we walk off the 15th green, and so I get out my camera, and I let the whole entourage go with us, So he's walking up there, and the pros are walking, Joel Damon and his caddy are walking up front. I kind of hung behind and lugged the bag. Not that I was tired at this point, but we're not saying that, right? I just wanted to, have the camera there. And so you walk through this tunnel, and I got my camera going, and you walk through this tunnel, and you walk out into this arena, the Roman Coliseum, right? And everybody's hooting and hollering. The announcer's going crazy. He's ripping off name after name of who's up there in the group ahead of you, And you're just looking around going, all right, I've seen this on TV, but now I'm standing right in the middle of it. And it was pretty fun, I got to tell you. And then Joel gets up there and hits his shot. And then my guy gets up there, and he is the sponsor of the Pro-Am Day, so they're announcing him. And, I've already got the yardage, and it's 149 yards, and that's a 7-iron for him. And, I see it, and the whole thing's going, and they're announcing him. They're telling him, hey, this guy, you're here because of this guy. And, this Pro-Am Day sponsored by, and all this. And, and I'm watching my guy, and I'm looking at him. And I got 7-iron in my hand, and I got 8-iron in my hand. And, after he gets announced and everybody's cheering his name and all that, and he's just steely-eyed. And he's walking around, and he's slow-pacing things. And I'm looking at him going, this guy's not nervous. He's walking around like a panther. He's looking at this crowd. He's looking at the hole. He comes over, and he looks at me. And I looked him dead in the eyes, and I said, calm or pumped? He said, what do you think? I put 8-iron in his hand. I said, better flush it. Let's go. And all of a sudden, he steps up, cool as cat, and just flushes one. And it rips this laser beam right at it. And everybody's freaking out because this thing's got hole-in-one written all over it. Comes up 9 feet short. And everybody's going crazy. High fives all around, the whole thing.
Wow.
And then the 2 other people they're playing with, they're over now. That's done. They can't hit it now. Right? They need a button down about right now, right? They've got the whole crowd juiced up and everything, and they got to go hit their shots now, and those didn't turn out so well. And we get up there, and I get up there and fix the pitch mark and go up there and read it, and it's 2 cups left, and I tell him that, and he looks at me and goes, you sure? And I said, yes, I am. Bam, right in the heart.
Wow.
Hands are in the air. He's pumped. He points over to the crowd that is over there. He's got a whole bunch of the people that work for him over in the stands off to the left, and he just points right at him right after he makes it, and the whole place goes berserk. And you know what? I've not been around anything like that, but boy, I'll do it again.
I bet
It
you
was
would.
exciting.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
it was exciting.
So
what a fun experience that thing was.
no kidding. So how did you end up in that position to get to be his caddy? I mean, is this a guy that you've known?
Yeah, it is. I worked with him when I was teaching at a great club in the Vail Valley a couple summers ago, and he's a member at that club. And he was the guy who helped me get to Pine Canyon in the summertime. So working for director of instruction for Symmetry, they own 2 courses. They own Pine Canyon's a really great private club, and another great one called Talking Rock in Prescott. You listed those, as where I'm teaching. And he's the guy that put me in touch with them because he didn't want me getting away from him. And so I get a chance to work with him now. And so he called me up and said, I want you on the bag. And I'm like, all right, here we go. A new crazy good experience. And that's how it all played out. It was fun.
No doubt. All
A
right,
lot
so
of fun.
I got to ask you some questions about these guys. Now, look, Jordan Spieth's my favorite player, and I
Yeah.
was excited to see him finish tied for 4th this
Yeah.
week at the tournament. What's your impression of how he looks? Obviously, those of us that are fans of his, concerned about the wrist, seemed like it was I think he talked about how it locked up on him at one point, but it obviously couldn't have been too bad. What's your impression from getting to play 9 holes with him?
He did not flinch. There was nothing that made me think that he had a wrist injury at all. Watching him with the club in his hand, I knew he had a wrist injury, so I was kind of paying attention to that. It did not change how he was going at it. It was the same tempo that we watch on television. I got to watch it up close and personal.
Yeah,
I asked his caddy, "How's it going?" He goes, "Everything looks pretty solid." And you know what? Everything looked pretty solid. He
that's
was
good
under
news.
control of his ball, and the sound of his ball flying by my head after he hits it was just as loud as you can imagine. So
All
he's
right,
out
so
there
you
hitting missiles. And you know what? He's a really nice guy. I watched him for 9 holes with all kinds of people trying to get to him and having kids signing balls and hats and all kinds of stuff. He was as gracious to everyone as you can imagine. So kudos to him, because he could have just decided to kind of play it cool and really not engage, and he engaged with everybody. So I was impressed, very, very impressed.
that's good news. You always hope that your heroes are the kind of people that you wish they were. They seem to be on TV, so it's great to hear that in person he is the kind of guy that you want him to be. So that's
Yeah,
good. Tell me
yeah.
about Schwarber. What's his game like?
Well, I only got to see him on the driving range, and you know what? He hit it okay. Certainly for a guy like that. I mean, I knew where I could help him real fast, but that wasn't my case, right?
So
You
it's
know,
interesting that you say that because um, turning back to Jordan just a little bit, Tom Patry is a regular guest on this show, and I asked Tom
yes.
at the beginning of the year. I said, if you could go out there and you could fix, quote unquote, fix one player, who would you want to go out there and try to help because you're watching them and go, oh, you need a little help here? And he said it would be Jordan Spieth. So it's great that Jordan is playing well again. But if of the people that you got to be around for this tournament, or just in general that you watch every week on Saturdays, Sundays, whenever you get an opportunity to sneak a peek at a PGA Tour event, who's one person you'd love to get your hands on that swing?
You know, I don't want to beg off of answering that, but here's the thing. What I don't know when I watch them play on television is what their intention is to hit a shot. And then we never seem to have a really good camera angle on it. So you kind of think, well, what's he trying to do? Maybe the guy's trying to hit a cut and he just hangs on to it a little too much and blocks it out. And then somebody goes, well, I can fix that. Well, I don't know, because I don't know what the player's trying to do, and I don't know what lie he was really had, and I sure don't know what his attempt in his mind was trying to do. But you see some things out of everybody that goes, I wonder why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one week, and the next week they show up and they're flawless. So I don't want to just jump on that and say, yeah, I got this guy that I look at and I go, yeah, I know exactly what I would do with that guy, because I really don't. There's too many things out there. I've seen Jason Day hit balls up close and personal, and you know what? There's a whole lot of good in that. And you know what? If that guy goes out and hits it sideways on three holes at the Genesis, I guarantee you it had something to do with something else. And somebody might watch him on TV, and maybe he'll hit 2 or 3 shots sideways. And next thing you know, somebody will go, I can fix that. And like, well, I just watched that thing here at the Vintage Club. He practiced this whole past week. And I watched that thing, and he isn't missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I always wonder, what's the scenario that made him miss that or look that way, or I'm not sure. So I'm not sure I would jump on the bandwagon of saying I know who I'd fix and which way I'd fix them. But if they came to me, I'd do an awful lot of investigation before I opened up my yapper.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Jeff, just a couple more before I let you go. And I was talking to John Mahaffey in the last segment, and I've been talking to some of your peers over the last couple of months. And you and your peers, the PGA professionals, the LPGA professionals, you guys have done such an outstanding job of growing our game over the last several years. I know the one silver lining to the pandemic was it got us out there playing golf. It was sort of the one thing that we could go do and get outside, and the game has grown as a result of that. And the momentum has continued on because of the work that you and your peers are out there doing. But when I look at what's going on at the professional level, it kind of gives me pause because
Yeah.
we're reducing the size of fields now. We're fewer Monday qualifiers, fewer tour cards, fewer events where we're going to have a full field at all because of the signature events. I feel like at the very top of our game, we're starting to limit the amount of people that we're going to allow to be out there. And because you have elite players that you're working with, that you've been working with for years at the junior level and getting up to the college level, and now they're going to have fewer opportunities to make it onto the PGA Tour. Your thoughts on what you're seeing at that level?
Well, I agree. You painted the picture to what it is very nicely, and it's honestly it's hard to think about this because when you're helping so many college players who have these aspirations, and they see that the road is getting harder and harder and harder, and the events are getting effectively more elite player only events. You're like, okay, so basically you could look at it and step back and look at it like the everyman going, it's just a gigantic money grab. And they're by creating these elite events, and you're not giving other people a chance to, have field sizes that are larger, then everybody's looking at it going, okay, so what's the next level tour that I can make money on? And they still want to play professionally. But now they're looking at the other ones, and they're looking at it like, well, how am I really going to get there? And they see this gigantic financial shell game that's going on, and they're wondering how they're ever going to get there. And it isn't just hard work anymore. It's other stuff too. And it's always been, a lot of sacrifice and everything, but the way that these things are looking, it's hard for these professionals and young people that want to become professionals in doing this. They get out there and they're playing some really good golf, and then they're up against this buzzsaw that they can't get in because they're playing well enough, but there's not any qualifiers anymore. And next thing you know, they're like, well, wait a minute, my dreams are crushed.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell the governing bodies because it's their world. They're the ones controlling it. And is it in their purview to make it a business arrangement? Yeah, sure. Is it in their purview to make it so that there's always a future and we have people to aspire to be it and give them a chance and see what can happen? Because look at the history of the people who've qualified for this and qualified for that. Is there ever a John Daly in the world if he didn't qualify in whatever was the ninth alternate in the PJ event, right? You ever hear of this guy before? No, but you hear of him now. So there's one story, and there's always a story of somebody who qualified for an event, and next thing you know, they made good on it that week, and next thing you know, they have a tour card, and next thing you know, they're one of the big stars. And is that where some of the future golfers at the top level come from? Sure, it is. But if the opportunities become fewer and fewer and fewer, it makes you wonder, are we killing the tour for the future? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all philosophical stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what I worry about, Jeff, is that we're killing the tour 10 years from now because kids are going to get discouraged. They're not going to have those opportunities, so they're not going to try anymore. And then, the number of people, kind of funneling up is going to become fewer because they're just going to run into a dead end. So why am I going to try? So I hope they figure that piece out because I think that's where I'm sort of teetering. Like we got to fix this now, and fixing it now isn't an option because they're actually going the other way. So I hope it changes. I hope someone comes along and makes them see the light on that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Back in the beginning of December, you posted on social media saying that one of your mentors said to you, and it reads, "You will never be criticized by someone who is doing more than you. You will only be criticized by someone doing less." And I love that. Talk about what that means and what it's meant to you over the course of your career.
Well, I'll tell you, it's important because this particular guy is at literally at the top of the food chain, so to speak, of golf instruction, because he's learned so much and taught other people so much and trained other people so much. But at the same time, he's told me that throughout his career, he's taken a lot of shots, and he still does. But he said, as you continue to grow, as you continue to learn, because you're not stopping, you just continue on. He says, just keep in mind that you've got to have some thicker skin, because sooner or later, there are people that are going to say, well, I don't like him. He does this or he does that. And he said, but just keep in mind that the people who are doing more than you aren't criticizing you, because they're still going. They're still doing their thing, and they're still focusing on that, and they don't have time for that kind of stuff. He said, just make sure that you're not ever one of those people out criticizing other people for anything. Just keep going with what you're doing. And it was really sage advice, and I got to thank him every day, because he's taught me an awful lot of things, but that one little bit of wisdom it sticks with me.
It's a great bit of wisdom. So kudos to him for sharing it with you, and kudos for you to take that and really run with it. I think that both of those things are spot on.
Well, I
Jeff,
appreciate the ability to be around great people who want to share what they've learned.
Jeff,
That's important.
yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, before I let you go, remind our listeners again about your great podcast that you're a part of, and the ways that we can keep up with the great things that you're out there doing, whether we're following you online or it's on social media.
Well, the big thing, the podcast that I do, we have a lot of fun. It's a show. It's not about the PGA Tour. It's not about the elite level golfer. It's not. It's called Those Weekend Golf Guys. And all we're talking about is golf for the everyman. We have fun on our show. There's a little bit of instruction talk. I bring on some fellow instructors. We bring on people that are in the industry in any form, and we're going to have fun on our podcast, or we're going to stop doing it. So it's an easy listen, and it's just a good bit of fun. So Those Weekend Golf Guys is what it is. We've been doing it. This is year 13 for us, and we certainly haven't won the kind of awards that you've won. Geez, you're gonna have. Are you gonna build a new wing in your house for all the trophies you're winning for this podcast? By the way, what the heck am I doing on this thing? I'm not. Look at the people you've had on this podcast, and then you go slumming with me.
Oh, stop!
What are you trying to bring? You trying to bring it down here a little bit? Come on.
In the immortal words of Ty Webb, you're a tremendous slouch. So don't ever sell yourself short, Judge.
That's right. That's right. But I feel very fortunate. I'm the director of instruction at the Vintage Club here in Indian Wells, California, a wonderful place. And I'm also the director of instruction in the summertime for a company called Symmetry, and they own Pine Canyon in Flagstaff and Talking Rock in Prescott. So here I am in the mountains in northern Arizona in the summertime, and now in the Palm Springs area in the wintertime, and just as lucky as I can be.
Yeah, you are a true rock star in this industry. Again, don't sell yourself short. I mean, if there was a Taylor Swift of golf instructors, you would be it. And we are all blessed to have you. I'm blessed to have you as part of the show now for a third time. But the industry and your students are very blessed to be able to spend some time with Jeff Smith. At the end of the day, when I think about who are the top instructors in our game that have made this something that people can do for a lifetime and that can also be thankful for, because, and you mentioned it about your podcast, but you make taking lessons, and I've talked to people that have taken lessons from you, that you make it the game fun. I mean, part of the game is, I've said for years, Jeff, it takes 10 years just to go from awful to bad at playing golf. Well, you make playing the game of golf fun, so that we enjoy the journey from being awful to bad to being okay to being pretty good to so many of your students have gone on to get college scholarships and then go into the professional level. So you make it fun along that journey and along that pathway. when a lot of other people might have quit the game because it becomes arduous and difficult, and it's a game that can get you down if you let it. You don't let it get them down. So we are all better off. Our game is better off because Jeff Smith has been a part of it.
Well, thank you very much. And from the thought about going from awful to bad taking 10 years, look, I can make that, and I can make you bad in 5 minutes. So, we're so we're do what we can, right?
There you go. Jeff, take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I hope I get this privilege of having you back on the show again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
See you, Jeff.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye.
That is the great Jeff Smith, folks. I hope throughout the course of the conversation you can see exactly why he is so sought after. There isn't anybody who's more fun, more knowledgeable, who makes the segment of this show more fun to be a part of. And then when you're out on the lesson tee with him, or you're in the audience listening to Jeff do a presentation or give a speech, there just isn't anyone that's as great as Jeff. I mean, he's just so much fun to be around and so personable. And so it reaches out to you and it makes you feel like you've known him forever. Again, I've had the privilege of knowing Jeff for probably a little over a year, going on a year and a half since he was first on the show. And then I got to spend some time with him at the PGA Merchandise Show. But he makes you feel like he is somebody that you've known your whole life. And that's a very special quality to have. And on top of that, he's just, there's a reason why he's a top 100 instructor and been named the top instructor in the state of Indiana. And I'm sure if they took a poll at every state that he has been in through all the different country clubs that he has been a part of, he would be the number one in that state too. So I can't thank Jeff enough for all the great content and all the great friendship over the last, like I say, year plus. I hope we get this privilege again with him very, very soon. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this week's edition of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again out to John Hughes, John Mahaffey, and Jeff Smith for joining me this week. Scheduled to join me next time are, of course, our resident director of instruction, Tom Patry, will be here. You know how much fun TP is. We're going to get a return visit from Frank Darby and kind of a home and home with Frank next week because I have the privilege of joining him and Brian Kroll on their wonderful show on Sirius XM. It's called On Course. They're on Sirius XM's PGA Tour channel starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Very excited to join Frank and Brian and then get to have Frank as a part of this show next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to round things out with LPGA Professional Hall of Famer, oh, by the way, and a wonderful friend of this show over the many years, Cindy Miller, one of the great people that you get to meet in this game. So excited to get Cindy back as part of the show. So it's going to be a great one, folks. I hope you'll come back and be a part of it with us. I want to thank our friends again over at the Pittsburgh Tribune Review for hosting this show on their site. For coverage of everything going on in Western Pennsylvania, including your favorite sports, go to triblive.com. You can find the show by then clicking on the sports section tab, and you're going to find the most recent episode right there for you front and center on the homepage of the sports section. You can also click on sports and then podcast network. You'll then see the Next on the Tee logo. If you click on that, many of the most recent episodes are going to be available for you right there as well. You can also find this show over on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Player.fm. And as always, my sincere thanks to the great folks over at Good Pods for making this show one of their recommended podcasts. So please download their free app and stream your favorite podcast right there on your favorite device. But like I say each and every week, my sincere thanks go out to all of you for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.